Hey everybody, I'm Trish Christ. NECAT and our super crew of teenagers are here today with the Alzheimer's Association. Vice President of Programs, Tiffany Cloud-Mann, is going to show us around and tell us all about the important work they do in our community.
Come on in, I'll show you around.
Thanks.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville.
这是我们的纳什维尔 which means in English, it's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville. Este es nuestro Nashville.
We all know how to talk about our organization during meetings, but what about the chance encounter of a lifetime? You never know who may share your next elevator, notice your logo on a notebook or a tote bag, and ask what you do. What's the clearest, most persuasive thing you can say in a short elevator ride?
I would say we provide, the Alzheimer's Association provides resources, support, and education to those affected by Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, and we're here to help caregivers or people with the disease as they journey through the disease process.
There are so many questions that I want to ask you about Alzheimer's and the Alzheimer's Association. So let's start with kind of a tangible, obvious one. Let's talk about purpose.
Okay.
What's the purpose of the Alzheimer's Association?
Yeah, well, our mission is 3 parts. It's to enhance care and support for those affected by Alzheimer's or other types of dementia. It's to promote research, so we do that through recruiting research participants, both healthy volunteers and those with the disease, but we also do that through fundraising for research. We're the nation's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research. And then we also, our third part of our mission is promoting brain health. So we feel like, you know, even until we know the cure and we have a cure, it's important to educate our constituents, the general community, just about how ways they can, things they can do to take charge of their brain health. And then our vision is ultimately a world without Alzheimer's. So we want to see that cure one day, but until that happens, we're here to provide that care and support.
Let's talk about your third mission point there, prevention.
Yeah.
What should we be doing? What should I be doing? What should my parents be doing to help, if at all possible, stave off, prevent Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so we know that age is the largest risk factor, so we all are all aging, so we are all at risk at some point, and it increases as we get older. Usually we kind of look at 65 and older, and then 75 and 85. And researchers feel like, you know, Alzheimer's risk is both hereditary, so genetic. You know, if you have a family history of Alzheimer's, you are more at risk than someone who doesn't. But the disease is very mysterious. Some people get the disease who have never had a family history, and vice versa. But researchers also feel like it's environmental, and it's about how we take care of ourselves. So how do you eat? All the things you already know about healthy living. Oftentimes we say what's healthy for the heart is healthy for the brain. So how do you eat? How do you exercise? Do you maintain your weight, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, diabetes? And then our association came out with a campaign called 10 Ways to Love Your Brain. So it goes into a little bit more than just the eating, exercising, maintaining those numbers, but also, do you smoke? Do you get enough sleep? Do you maintain your stress, your anxiety levels? Do you stay social? Do you keep your mind active? So these 10 things that you can really look at and think, okay, how am I doing with these things? And so with that, researchers say, you know, even if you have this family history, you may be able to offset the onset of the disease by taking care of some of these environmental things that you can control.
Staying social, that's an interesting healthy element.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all, we were all made to be social people. I mean, some of us are more social than others, but we need those connections with other people. So I think that makes sense. You know, the more you try to stay connected in the ways that you feel comfortable, I think it's going to benefit you cognitively too.
That makes sense to me. And even a further benefit would be if you're kind of a hermit and you don't really get out very much, and you do start displaying symptoms, who's going to see that?
Yeah.
But if you do have a social network and a best friend and a sweetheart and a group that you hang out with,
right,
then if something starts to creep in, maybe your circle will notice and take action faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes, when the onset of the disease happens, we all know when we're not physically feeling well, so we know cognitively when we're not feeling well as well. But I think as the disease progresses, you may not be as aware of some of the changes going on, so it is important to have that person that can say, well, you know what, I noticed you're having trouble with this and you haven't had trouble with this before, or I can tell some of your memory trouble is really starting to affect you on a regular basis. Yeah.
What are some of these symptoms? Like, I can't find my keys a couple of times a week. Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about more than?
Yeah, it's more. The association has the 10 warning signs that anyone can look up on our website, alz.org. And really just even one would signal a trip to the doctor, because we know sometimes there are physical ailments that can get kind of out of whack that they then cause memory and confusion trouble. Like if I have a severe vitamin deficiency, I think a lot of times we look at B12, or if I have some hormonal changes that have really gotten severe, or thyroid problems, severe depression. So there are things like that that can get so extreme that then they cause memory and confusion trouble. So first, I guess in saying that, you never know. It may not be Alzheimer's or a type of dementia at all. But if it is a type of dementia, some of the warning signs that stand out for me of those 10 would be, the first one we have is memory loss that affects daily life. So the key word in that one is daily. It's not just happening occasionally, because we all misplace our keys, we all can't find our cell phones or the TV remote, and we know those things happen not only because as we age our brains may not work as sharply as they once did, but also if you're under a lot of stress or you have a lot going on, things may just they're not working as sharply as they should. But this is where someone's memory changes are affecting their daily life and really affecting their quality of life in a negative way. So that one always stands out to me, just that regular trouble. The other one is the third one on our website or in our educational material, which is trouble with familiar tasks. And that's where your loved one or yourself is having trouble with things you've never had trouble with before. You're having trouble with that particular hobby that you knew everything about. Or if you're a great cook, you're having trouble in the kitchen. Or if you're still working, you're having trouble at your job that maybe you've been at for many years. So it's those familiar tasks. And then, of course, some of the others, have to do with personality changes, have to do with spatial ability, the way our brain interprets what we're seeing correctly. That changes, so we see people falling for unknown reasons. It also has to do with communication changes. You're noticing that we all have trouble sometimes accessing certain words at different times, just like I might be sitting here and having trouble accessing a word with you, but this is where someone's communication trouble happens regularly. So in conversation, they're having trouble accessing simple words like of and the. And as the disease progresses, a lot of these warning signs progress. So with communication, it's not only me having trouble communicating to you, but as I progress, it's me having trouble understanding what you were telling me. And the same goes kind of with those familiar tasks. It's not just things that I have always been good at, but it's also things like familiar tasks like, how do I prepare a meal? Or how do I get dressed for the day? So a lot of them kind of progress with the disease.
Physiologically, what's happening that's causing these lapses in understanding and lapses in communication?
Yeah. Well, if anyone Googles Alzheimer's or dementia, they may see the words plaques and tangles.
Okay.
And I'll explain what that is. But the reality is researchers still aren't totally for sure what's causing it. We know that brain cells die with the disease. We know that if you look at an MRI and you look at the volume of someone's brain, someone with a type of dementia is probably going to have shrinkage of the brain due to less brain cells taking up that space. Wow. But what we think's happening is we think there's a protein in the brain, we all have, it's called beta amyloid. Not totally sure of its purpose, but we all have traces of it in the brain. And for those that develop Alzheimer's, that beta amyloid, instead of breaking down in the brain as it should and leaving the brain, it starts to cluster together like a sticky, hard-like substance, which is where we get the word plaque. It's that plaque.
Oh, wow.
Within the brain cell, your neuron, which holds your abilities, your personality, your emotions, your thoughts, there's also a protein in the brain cell called tau, T-A-U. That protein also starts to malfunction, we believe, with Alzheimer's, and it kind of tangles, instead of laying very straight as it should, it kind of tangles together in the brain cell. So we think a combination of the beta amyloid, the plaque, and the tau, the tangles start to happen, and those plaques and tangles make it unable for those brain cells or those neurons to get what they need to survive. the blood flow, the nutrients, and so what happens? They die. So that's what we think is what's going on, but the main thing you need to know is that brain cells die, and so when someone's loved one kind of seems like they, almost like that light switch has gone off, it's almost like it's because they've lost that specific information that they're trying to access.
We're here in Music City. Obviously, music is a part of everybody's lives here in maybe a bigger way than it is in other places. Is it true that sometimes hearing a song from your teenage years or the song that was played at your wedding, or can that take you back to a part of your brain that might not necessarily be functioning properly?
Yeah, we think that music is one of kind of those last memories to go, and because of the center it's stored in your brain, it's not just memory, but it's also a lot of times muscle movement. And so a lot of times music can be a great therapy for people that are experiencing a type of dementia, and it does take them back. There's actually a nonprofit called Music in Memory that puts music from someone's era or their favorite genre of music on an iPad, or an iPod, and they put their headphones in, and a lot of times that brings them back, their personality back, and it can also calm some of the difficult behaviors that we see with the disease. Yeah.
So for people who are watching us talk about this right now, what does a person with Alzheimer's need from the circle of people around them?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, because a lot of times we focus a lot on the caregivers, which the caregivers, we tell them you got to almost focus on your health more than your loved ones, because if you're not healthy physically, socially, emotionally, you're not going to be here to take care of your loved one. But the person with dementia still needs that focus too. They still need to feel purposeful. They still need to feel needed and wanted. They still need to connect socially with others and just in loving ways. I think a lot of times we think as soon as that diagnosis is given that it strips the person of who they are. But we know the reality is, yes, their communication may change, their personality may be a little bit different, but they're still that person inside. They still have preferences, things they don't and do like, and they still have those things that make them them. So I think as a caregiver, it's important to remember that your loved one still needs purpose. Even if there's things that they can't do as well, try to involve them in as much as you can, and try to still keep them social. But I think that that attention goes for both the person with dementia and the caregiver. The caregiver has to take care of themselves socially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is that keeps them healthy, because we do know that they typically can decline quicker than their loved one.
Let's talk about some services at Alzheimer's Association. Let's start first for the services that you offer to the caregiver.
Yeah. So we have support groups in the community. Most of our groups meet once a month, and they're spread out through all of the counties that our chapter serves. So that's great. It's free to attend, and they can not only go and get support, but they often give support to others, and it kind of reminds them that, hey, maybe I'm not doing as bad as I thought, or I didn't know I had these resources in me. They can also learn about the disease. They can go on our website. They can come meet with me or another care consultant one-on-one just to learn about the disease and learn about what things they need to do for their loved one to kind of create that plan of care. We call those a care consultation. We also have a 24/7 helpline that they can call day or night, weekday, weekend, if they're in crisis, if they just need to talk to someone. And then we can connect them with local resources. So a lot of times they just don't know what's out there that can help, and we can point them in those directions.
And those are amazing services, and I would hope that every caregiver takes advantage of them and looks out there to see how Alzheimer's Association can help them in their endeavors. What sort of services do you all provide for the specific person suffering from Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so they can also access support groups. We don't have as many of those as we would like. We hope to grow that service, but we do have one here at Vanderbilt that they can go to once a month. We also try to plan social outings monthly, at minimum quarterly, where they can just get together with other people who have been diagnosed and do something fun and social that has nothing to do with the disease, but just to feel normal. We also can meet with them one-on-one, especially those that are newly diagnosed in the early stages, and just teach them about what changes they're going to experience. And those are hard conversations, but it's also empowering for people to know, okay, these are things I can do right now for myself. I can take care of my legal and healthcare matters, or I can get involved in a research study. So we can connect them with research studies, which is very powerful for them to feel like they have some type of handle on the disease. And then again, resources. We can connect them with things they didn't know about in the community that might be helpful.
My name is Joyce Wisby, and I am involved with the Alzheimer's Association because my husband lived for 10 years with the disease, and after he passed away, I decided that I wanted to give back and to do what I could to eradicate this terrible disease. And as a caregiver, it was very difficult for me to attend support groups, to find respite for myself. And so after he passed away, that's when I became a facilitator for a support group that is at the Barton House. My husband was an attorney, and he was assistant attorney general for the state of Iowa. And his secretary went on vacation for 2 weeks, and she came back, and he had totally reorganized all the files. And you don't really do that in a law office. And so she called and said, there is something wrong with Jim. And so I took him to our general practitioner, and he did an MRI and asked a couple questions and said there was nothing wrong with him. But then I started thinking about what had been happening in the last few years, and our 2 children began to look at their father as well, and we realized that there was something wrong. So then I took him to a neurologist, and he did all the battery of tests, and then that's when he was diagnosed. I think the immediate need for me was to have my 2 children and my family right there. And then we got involved with our church, and they really embraced us. I mean, they fell in love with Jim, and they really did want to know what they could do to help us. I think it's just knowing that there are people there that you can call on. Also, it's hard when you are living this, and say you go to the grocery store and Jim would do something that was inappropriate. I just wanted everybody to know that this is what's going on, and please be patient with him. And most people were. I tried to be as open and as honest as I could. I carried a card that says he has Alzheimer's, and I sometimes would just pass it to people. Barton House is a residence that is that only serves people living with Alzheimer's, and so this is all they do, and they do an excellent job, I think. My husband went for a day respite there and stayed several nights overnight there, and I just have fallen in love with Barton House over the years. Last October we started our Sunny Day Club at the church, and so and that is 3 hours every Wednesday where the caregiver drops their loved one off. They get 3 hours of respite, and we have a whole lot of fun with the members of our Sunny Day Club. I get as much out of it as they do. We meet the 3rd Thursday of every month at Barton House, and Barton House just gives us a room. They provide the snacks, but they're not there, so that the people who attend the support group feel very safe that they can say whatever they want within those 4 walls. And there are a number of people who are caregivers for people who live at the Barton House or 10-day respite there who come to the support group. And our support group has really become a family. We laugh together, we cry together, everybody knows everybody else's story, and we just are there to support each other. And I really hardly say anything anymore because they just come in and this is what I need to talk about this month, or this is what's going on. Does anybody have any suggestions or ideas? And it's a wonderful group, and the same people keep coming back. So I know that they feel that it's valuable too. I just tell people, be open and to all of your friends and everybody that you know, and let them help you in this journey.
My name is Elizabeth Mosich. I'm from Nashville, and I'm on the board for the Alzheimer's Association. Professionally, I work in the field. I'm the executive director of Barton House, and we're a memory care assisted living. And all we do is work with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. We're primarily a residential community, but we host a support group, we have a day program, and we do a lot. And then I'm on the board for the Alzheimer's Association, and really wanted an opportunity to give back in a way that was not me doing it professionally. Folks with Alzheimer's, we're not just forgetting things and misplacing things. When folks come to us, they're usually in those mid going into the latter stages. So we see folks with a lot of behaviors. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of paranoia that comes with the disease. So we're really walking with folks as they go through this. So many families come to us, and I hear a lot, you probably hear this all the time, and I do hear it all the time, but I haven't heard it from your family. A big part of my job is to work directly with the families who are coming to us, and we wanted to be more effective in that, not just personally as staff, but to connect with the Alzheimer's Association and see what can we do more. So hosting the support group with Joyce Wisby was a perfect fit for us. We have a great room, they have a lot of privacy, we provide the brownies and the coffee, and we get out of there so that they can speak freely. That has been a great connection for us. Personally, I had two grandmothers who had a very long journey with Alzheimer's. My mother's mom, it was about 14 years, and we started with my grandfather putting locks on the doors and the cabinets at home. She wandered, and so there were a few times that it was pretty scary of where she had gotten off to in the neighborhood. There needs to be an end to this disease. It's big, it's huge for families, it's painful. You feel like you're losing someone twice. The first time to the disease, and when they don't remember you, and you're taking on a new role and doing personal care for, an aging parent that you never thought you'd have to do. And then they're not remembering you, so you're losing that relationship, and then you lose them a second time when they're truly gone. So it would be really great to end this. The Alzheimer's Association is so good about bringing awareness to the disease so that it's more easily talked about. So you can take your loved one to church or to a local restaurant and maybe not have as much fear because it's on more people's minds, and they're expecting it and they understand it a little better. I kind of jokingly say to my husband, one day they're going to put me out of business, and I'm totally fine with that. That's okay.
So for people watching us talk about this right now, certainly all nonprofits need donations, and as you know, we can't solicit donations on channels like NECAT, but other than funding, what can a viewer do who just wants to help the Alzheimer's Association?
Yeah, there are multiple ways. So they can become an advocate. We advocate at both the state and federal level, so if they have an interest in public policy, they can come join us in those efforts. They can get involved with research. As I mentioned, there are studies out there for healthy volunteers just for us to learn more about the brain and how the disease may transpire in individuals, so they can get involved with research studies at our website. And they can also just join us at some of our events like our Walk to End Alzheimer's or one of our other galas, or we have an event in June called The Longest Stay. But there are plenty of ways they can get out and bring awareness to the disease with us and really advocate on behalf of those affected.
Okay, so Tiffany, I have one last segment I want to do with you, and it's called the speed round.
Okay.
It's just like that game we used to play when we were kids where I ask you a question and the first thing that pops into your mind, just let it fly and we'll
Okay.
jump on to the next one.
Okay. All right.
Here we go.
Okay.
Speed round with Tiffany Cloudman. True or false? More than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's.
True.
Do you have to be old to get Alzheimer's?
You do not.
To settle a decades-long argument with my mother,
Okay.
is the correct pronunciation of the disease old-timers?
It is not.
Got that, Mom? It's not. What word do you say more than any other word at work?
Care.
What room do you laugh in at work?
Probably our lobby, where we're all together.
What room do you cry in at work?
I haven't much, but definitely got emotional on the phone in my office.
What's the mark you want the Alzheimer's Association to make on the world?
A cure.
And last of all, what's your website?
alz.org.
Tiffany, thank you so very much.
Thank you.